Blog Talk Radio.
Hey everybody, this is your host Morgan from THORGECKO. Thank you for tuning in to Late Night Leos tonight. I've got my co-host Destiny from Desert Snow Gecko. Destiny, you want to say hello?
Hello everybody out there and welcome to Late Night Leos.
Okay, now tonight we've got Michelle from Rampant Reptiles. Michelle, you want to say hello and to everybody?
Hi everybody, this is Michelle Gecko from Rampant Reptiles. Yeah, my last name's pronounced Gecko for Destiny.
I know, I asked her like 100 times, like 3 months ago, and she had to spell it out phonetically for me. I don't know if I can get it right still to this day.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm coming up on 4 years of being friends with her, and I had to wait until I heard it on her answering machine before I even knew how to pronounce it. So that was like a year ago.
Just call her Michelle G.
Yeah, I just say Michelle or hey.
Hey you.
Hey you.
So Michelle, what got you started way back when in like reptiles in like general? Because I remember you from like way back in the day and like from the Gecko forums and all. So what was your drive? What got you going into reptiles?
Actually, like, started when I was a kid. I just always loved animals. You know, I actually started with fish. My family had this like hexagon aquarium, and you know, each of my siblings like got to have it for a while and keep like a goldfish or whatever. And like all my siblings, they ended up killing their goldfish, but I didn't. I was the only one that kept it alive.
Yay!
But yeah, as I was growing up, I always wanted to have like a small pet, like a hamster or something, you know, put in a 10-gallon. But my parents wouldn't let me have anything like that except for the goldfish. But yeah, it wasn't until I was much older in 2005. I was actually going to college at the time. I was commuting, and my mom was out of town, and so I decided, to do the rebellious thing and go out and get a leopard gecko. I don't even know why I wanted to get a reptile or a leopard gecko. I don't know, they looked cool in the store or something. So I went out to Petco, I grabbed one, and I decided I was going to keep it in my closet and keep it secret from my mom. That lasted like 10 minutes, and then I realized the crickets, they chirp, so there's no way I was going to be able to keep that secret. So yeah, I told my mom about it when she got back, and she was just like, whatever.
That's an awesome response.
Like, she didn't say, oh, go take it back to the store. She just kind of, like, let it slide.
That's
cool like
awesome. That. Way better than a goldfish.
Yeah.
So then you had this leopard gecko that didn't have to hide out in your closet, and you probably did like the rest of us, and you were amazed and wanting to know more, right?
Yeah, I did like all the, I guess what you call the wrong things. I got the sand, and I was doing crickets, and I tried to like put plants in my tank, and that did not work out at all. And but yeah, actually, it wasn't until a couple years later I was dating a guy that lived in Maryland. I moved in with him. And we decided we were going to start our business hobby or whatever, and that's when Rampant Reptiles started. So that was back in 2007. And my boyfriend at the time, he had snakes, and then I had the leopard gecko, and so we started going to shows, and I bought a bunch of leopard geckos. I went to like the Hamburg show. all the local shows to like the Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania area. And then, of course, I was young and kind of stupid and bought like way too many geckos. I charged up my credit card and got into credit card debt.
You grew too fast.
Yeah, word to the wise people, don't charge up a bunch of money for geckos and stuff that you can't pay back right away. Because it took years to get out of credit card debt. It was horrible. But anyway.
So when you were doing your acquiring at that time, what morphs were you concentrating on? Because that's 2007. So I think maybe there was maybe 2 or 3 albinos at that time. Probably.
They were all the albinos were out. It was around the time that Max Snow first started becoming really popular. I started with more like low end stuff. I got like sun glows and I had some like super hypo tangerines. I had I bought a bunch from this one guy. I can't think of his name, but he gave me a Max Snow that was set Tremper albino for free, and that was like awesome at the time.
I know.
But yeah, I bought a bunch of stock from like JMG, and I got like a gecko from CrestedGecko.com and all these other local breeders. But yeah, I bred them for a year and then decided I really didn't like super hypo tangerines. I got rid of most of them. I don't have like any of that stock anymore. I pretty much cleared it out, and I have all new stuff. But,
so you, in my opinion, are like crackerjack with the genetic information, and you were pretty crackerjack with all the husbandry stuff too. Like, if I don't know the answer, I'm going to tag Michelle on Facebook for an answer. How did you do that to your brain?
Tons and tons of time on the Gecko forums. And I'm very mathematical, scientific. That's how my brain works. So like the genetic stuff just comes really easily to me. I've taken a bunch of college biology courses. I took a genetics course, I know it's always been easy for me, and I just did a lot of research. So.
Well, it definitely has paid off because you seriously know your stuff, and I never see you steer anyone wrong, and you do an excellent job on social media, and you used to do an excellent job back in the day on the Gecko forums as well. So now you do a lot of work with the snows, which caught your fancy way back when.
Mm-hmm.
You work a lot with the total eclipses and that sort of thing now.
Mm-hmm. I started actually working with total eclipses in 2010. That's when I started getting some stock. My first pairing was actually a Mac Raptor to a Mac Snow Eclipse at Tremper. So I didn't actually start right with the FASCIOs. That came later. But, I produced my first one in 2011, first Super Snow Eclipse. And it was my first Super Snow ever and Super Snow Eclipse at the same time. And I just, I hatched this out and I was like, what the heck? This is crazy looking. I posted pictures on Gecko forums, and everybody was like super surprised. I was getting offers from a bunch of different people. People wanted to buy it, and I was like, no way, I'm keeping this. Like, this is what I'm going to work on.
Totally a holdback.
Really
no
cool.
Touchy.
Yeah, and it wasn't just a Super Snow Eclipse, was it? It had a white face.
Yeah, it had a white face, white legs, and a white tail, and actually had some white on the body as well. So that was like the first tide-looking total eclipse I'd ever seen. And I think actually a lot of people, that was like their first one that they'd ever seen.
Yeah.
So with the total eclipses, there are the white faces and the ones that have like a high amount of white or tiding or whatever it's referred to on the body, where it has like just complete blank patches. And a lot of other animals, that's just called tide. And then there's the total eclipses that sort of look more normal, but just have like a little white on the nose or white feet or tip of the tail that's white. In your experience, what causes the different looks?
I'm pretty sure the control factor is the eclipse gene. What I've found with like crossing the more whiter looking total eclipses, the ones that have the tide and the white face and things like that, that I think it's like line bred. You can produce ones with even more white over time, line breeding it. But I've also, I've crossed like the really white ones, the pied ones together, male and female, and produced, almost normal looking total eclipses that don't have a lot of white on them. So that's why some people say it's totally random. But if you like a super hypotangerine, if you produce if you cross two, very super hypo tangerines together, you may end up getting a couple not so great looking ones. I mean, that's just line bred
genetics works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you spit out the one that you're like, oh, you'll make a great pet.
Yeah. But if you get a total eclipse that has a lot of white on it and cross it to, a maximum eclipse or something like that has the gene for the the white on the face, then you can produce them. It's not like something magical that only certain people have. I mean, it's out there. There's a lot of people that are producing total eclipses. I mean, you'd be surprised if you look around.
Well, also, I've noticed in even just like raptors and radars, there are some, like Jamie Carnes' radars, that have that whole eraser face going on. Mm-hmm. It's almost like it's trying to behave with the eclipse gene the same way it does in the pieded total eclipses.
Yeah, I'm thinking like that eclipse that eclipse line, or I guess whatever that he has like the white face gene in it, and when you throw super snow in there, it doesn't cover it up all the way. Like super snow usually covers things up, like the tangerine,
lavender and whatnot.
You've never seen it, right? So that's actually why I, after I produced my first total eclipses, I ended up getting the Maximum Eclipse FASCIO, because the total eclipses I produced in 2011, they were both female, so I was looking for a male. So, I was looking around in the forums and the classifieds and stuff, and I saw that Maximum Eclipse FASCIO with the white on the face, and I was like, I have to have that, because he just looks so awesome. I contacted, it was Eric Briscoe at Oregon Gecko. He was selling it, so I contacted him and paid for it, got it, and all that. And that's kind of where the FASCIO stuff started.
And so, before we get into the FASCIO stuff, because I know that's the reason why a lot of people are waiting to hear, I wanted to ask you a quick question. In one of the social groups, we were all having a little chit-chat about the total eclipses versus the galaxies. So, tell us, what is the difference?
That's kind of debatable. There's some argument over obviously you just said. You know, if you want to say the galaxy is Ron Tremper's line, I'm fine with that. The Ron Tremper's line tends to produce the yellow paradox spot, the sun or whatever is it.
So it's like a white gecko with the little black spotting and then the orange spot that makes it look like a sun. So that's why he called it a galaxy.
Yeah,
right.
It's a supersnow eclipse with yellow paradox spot.
And so, with that yellow paradox spot, to call your animal, it's kind of like that whole eclipse Tremper versus raptor thing. For it to be called a galaxy, it's supposed to have originated from Ron's line and or have the paradox spot. Other than that, you're just supposed to refer to it as just a total eclipse?
I would just stick the galaxy name to only Ron Tremper line animals. That's just his line. So even if it's a total eclipse with a yellow paradox spot, if it didn't come from Ron, it's not a galaxy. That's my opinion anyway.
Awesome. Thank you very much for clearing that up for everybody. So,
no problem.
So now tell us more about your FASCIO and how your original pairings went and how all of your interesting discoveries have happened with your FASCIOs.
Yeah, sure. So like I was saying, I produced a couple of total eclipses back in 2011. I didn't want to cross them back to their father, which was a Mac Raptor, so I wanted to get rid of the Tremper gene so I could, cross it into the other albinos. So I got the Maximum Eclipse FASCIO, and then I took him, and in 2012, I crossed him into the total eclipses that I produced, and into the original female, the Maximum Eclipse at Tremper. And, produced some total eclipses and some maximum eclipses. And even, they were very popular. People were like, oh, these are so cool looking. The FASCIO gene just, or the blood, the FASCIO blood, really enhanced the maximum eclipses.
How did it change the pattern?
Not so much pattern, but more like color. In FASCIOs, I don't know if you want to go into this, they're fairly unique subspecies. Their color tends to be more like the yellow and purple tends to be more like pastel, and or even they can be kind of a more bright yellow. But I mean, it's hard to just explain, I guess.
They have a little bit more of a white quality to them, like versus an Afghan, which is more bold and dark. The FASCIOs tend to already look a little snowy, but they have that brightness to them that sometimes is lost in a regular run-of-the-mill, like, pet gecko snow.
Yeah. I've also actually noticed they tend to be, like, more pastel when they're younger, and sometimes they'll kind of darken up as they get older. Or they kind of, like, do the mood-changing thing, I like to call it, They'll be, like, kind of lighter at times and then get darker and stuff.
I've noticed that with a lot of geckos, but it does for certain ones. It's more noticeable. Or don't touch me, I don't want you to feed me or give me water, go away. That's the dark colors.
Yeah. FASCIOs, they also have kind of a body structure difference compared to, like, say, an Afghan, which, Afghans have very pointed noses. Their faces are kind of smaller and not as wide, kind of more like triangular, I guess you'd say.
And Afghans are like smaller.
Afghans, Afghans are, they're also smaller. Fascios are more like long and lean, and their head structure, very broad, like back of the head, and more round nose and facial structure, I guess you could say. Also, sometimes they can have kind of like a longer neck too.
That's to help them make more noises.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that too. They like to talk to me sometimes.
I definitely find that they are incredibly chatty.
Yeah, with the little squeaks and stuff. It's really cute, I find,
I definitely think it's really adorable. It's one of their more endearing qualities, I think, over some of the other subspecies. They do their little squeaks, their little squawks, and then they do these little croaky barks, too, if you pick them up, like, quit bothering me. And then also there are the screamers. If you are getting water or whatever, you just touch the tub and they start screaming. And they scream the whole time you pull the drawer out, give them the water, and close it, and they're still screaming in there. Like the little opera singers.
Yeah. When I first started reading about fascios, like, people said, they were not very friendly and temperamental and stuff like that, and I don't see that at all. They squeak a lot and stuff like that, but, the occasional one's kind of skittish and stuff. But, you find that in basically any morph. But, I don't find them any different than, say, like Afghan, which they said Afghans are super friendly and fun and whatever. I mean, fascios are friendly too. They're not temperamental at all.
I don't know if it's just my groups or what, but I actually prefer my fascios to my Afghans. My fascios will sing to me, and they're pretty, and they'll come up to me and not try and kill me, and my Afghans are more on the killer pit bull side of the spectrum. But
yeah, I think it also kind of depends on the line. I don't know if it's a locality thing or whatnot, or you just have like a gecko with a evil gene or something.
Evil gene. I wonder if that's recessive or dominant. We should probably start tracking that. This one's hit for evil.
But yeah, like, I've had a couple of Afghan crosses, and actually I had one I got from Eric Bristow, Oregon Gecko, at the same time that I got my Maxwell Eclipse fascio. And that guy was super friendly. I mean, he was awesome. But the Afghans I've had since then were more skittish and not friendly. So I don't know.
But it's all worth it, because when you cross the wild types into our morphed out stuff, it does some amazing things. What have you witnessed in your own pairings and work that can speak to us about the power of bringing in that fresh blood?
Well, I actually wanted to refer to that thread that I posted. I think it was the Gecko blog or Gecko Reader Corner or whatever. I can't remember. On Facebook. It was something that L.B. Scholl posted in Gecko forums about his early work, with Max Nose. Because I guess when Max Nose were first, I don't know, not invented, but found.
Discovered.
Discovered, there you go. They had some, health problems. They were kind of more weak. They tend to have a lot of tail kinks and things like that. So what Elby did was he crossed them into fascios to strengthen the bloodlines and try to get rid of these problems. And he was successful. Each generation that he crossed into the fascios, they were bigger, stronger. Got rid of the tail kinks and things like that. So I kind of feel like I'm kind of doing the same thing. I've heard from some people that crossing a total eclipse to total eclipse produces animals that are weak and don't grow very quickly and things like that. And crossing into the fascio, I haven't had those kinds of problems. So
you definitely headed off any issues before you got to the point where they would start.
Yeah.
Well, and then you also made the conscious effort to not breed your 2 female eclipses that you had back to their max snow father.
Yeah, I try to outcross at least every couple generations or so. But even starting out right then and there really helped. So I had unrelated animals that I crossed to an animal that had, it was what they call F2 generation. It was so the max snow eclipse fascio. It started out with a Mac raptor crossed to a fascio, and then the offspring from that produced him. I don't know if you guys get that. So his parents were the F1 generation.
Okay.
So F1 to F1 produced the F2.
And so then the next generation, his generation, that's where you went and found another male from outside your own line.
So it would be an outcross. It's F2 outcross to something completely unrelated. I don't know what that leads into, but anyway.
And doing that has definitely ensured that your lines are strong and healthy, because super snow, just by itself, can definitely show some of the weakness that people like to associate with the whole line breeding issues. Super snows can sometimes grow a little slower. I mean, any morph can, but people always like to say it happens in the super snows. And so since that's what you were working for in this project, you were careful to make sure that that didn't happen. And then introducing the wild blood type definitely has made some of your animals absolutely, in my opinion, the prettiest things out there.
Yeah. And dead air.
And so you are also working on some other stuff for this upcoming year. You've actually gotten some new stock. Did you want to tell us about some of your new stuff?
Yeah, sure. I've been doing a lot of trades this year because I wanted to try some different stuff. I got a pair of funky jungles, so that should be pretty fun.
That should be extremely fun.
I was actually tinkering with the idea of crossing them into the pure fascio female that I got from Steve Sykes over GECKOS, etc.
Are your funky jungles, are they possible hits, or what are they?
I have pure ones, pure funky jungles. The male I have is a Max Snow Funky Jungle Bell that is, I think it's had or possible hit Eclipse. And the female, the female is a Max Snow Funky Jungle, het radar or whatever.
That's awesome. And so, but you also have the ones that are no hets.
No, I just had the pair.
Oh, okay. So that's actually a really good idea to cross it into your pure fascio line.
Yeah, I got them from actually Rob over at Empire Reptiles, and he crossed one of his into Afghan line, and they look pretty sweet. So I was thinking maybe do like kind of a variation of that and cross into fascio and try something new and see what they look like. I've always thought that crossing a bell into fascio would look really cool, but I haven't gotten to do that yet. And
I definitely think that you are 100% correct on that, because the quality of bells to be lavender and that like extra boost to the yellow that the fascio would give, I think you're 100% dead on.
Yeah. So I think that would be like a great start to a long-term project. Well, a couple years at least, anyway.
Yay! So 2014, here we go. You do that.
I've gotten into stripes. I got a few different lines of stripe. I haven't really done very much work with stripes, so I wanted to try that out. I got some Max Snow stripes, a trapper line. I got some bold bells, also from Rob at Empire Reptiles. The bold bells, they look pretty awesome. Really bright yellow colors, and should be really fun to work with. And I got a pair of red stripes. So.
Oh, that's super fun.
Yeah, I've always wanted to work the red stripes, and I finally went out and splurged and got them. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. Are you gonna do anything fancy with your red stripes, do you think, or are you just gonna keep them just like red stripes?
I actually already put together a pair, the male red stripe. I'm breeding with one of the bold bell females that I got.
Oh, yay! That's fun.
Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna have like a really bright red stripe or anything, but I would, testing to see if the red stripe male is het bell, because he's a pos het bell.
Well, that will be awesome. I really hope that you get some awesome stuff from that.
Yeah, me too.
I do think that the red stripe bells are insane. The coloration on those is really deep and bright all at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get something like that. I think it's going to be more kind of a brighter yellow look to it, because the red stripes I have, they're not super red. They're more what people might call like a green-sided red stripe or something. They have the green on them.
The emerine?
Yeah, more like that. But they're not an emerine line.
Yeah. I've noticed over the past couple of years that when you take green in a non-albino animal and you put it onto an albino animal, it does really fun things to the green.
Yeah. So the bold bell that I'm crossing the red stripe into, she had like some green coloration to her. She has a lot of color. So I think that will really enhance things. The whole green, and hopefully get some really cool looking het bells, maybe even some greenish looking bells, red striped bells.
Some bells thrown in there, because you got to prove them out.
Yeah.
One of the things that you had on your list was hypomax nose, and that's something that I've always had a special interest in because they just look so darn cool.
Yeah. I've always wanted to get like a pair or whatever, and I finally splurged and got the pair. I don't know if you call them ghosts exactly. That's kind of
That's muddy waters right there.
Yeah. But so I'm just going to stick with calling them Hypo Max Snow. I got some really kind of more light-colored ones, so I'm not going to like produce creamsicles or anything like that. But hopefully they'll be nice and light and super hypo Max Snow.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that, and I'm actually getting to the point where I think that we need to demand that you post pictures of everything somewhere.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I post all over my Facebook, usually. Not too often. I'm not like a picture hoarder. I don't take pictures every day. But,
people who do take pictures every day, I think might be a little bit nuts, because it is not easy.
Yeah, I just don't have the time in the day to be doing that, all the time.
You take some amazing photos, though. I've seen one of your photos that you have is like one of my absolute all-time favorite gecko photos. It's of two that are like, one is facing one direction and one is facing the other direction, and they almost look like they're making like an ovally heart shape. You had just posted it maybe like within the last month.
What births were they? I'm not sure which picture you're talking about.
One is a dark color and one is a light color. I can't really remember, but every time I see it, I'm like, oh, I like that one. That is like my favorite picture you ever did, because it's almost like I don't know, it's a coming and a going, and one is a little bit lighter and one's a little bit darker, so it's got that whole yin-yang sort of feel to it. Oh,
that's cool.
Good job.
I know I've taken a couple of really cool pictures recently. There was like two total eclipses. They were kind of snuggling. They were like touching noses, and yeah, it was actually I was taking like a updated photo for one of my UK customers, and I passed it along to her. I was like, oh, this is so cute. I can't believe they did that for me.
That is awesome. You're trying to kill your customers with cuteness.
Mhm.
And so, what are your plans this season with white and yellow?
I just got my first white and yellow. I kind of wanted to wait and let other people, test them out and see what they thought. So.
And spend a lot of money first.
Yeah. So I traded for Max Snow white and yellow, and going to be crossing him, actually male, into my Total Eclipse line, and also like the Max Snow FASCIO line that I have going.
That is super awesome. I don't know if it happens with every single Super Snow white and yellow, but I've noticed in the few that I've seen that they get these ginormous polka dots. And they look so stinking cute.
The Max Snow FASCIO that I'm going to cross the white and yellow, that one has like the really big kind of boldish looking spots and with really reduced color and stuff like that. So I think it'll make, a really crazy looking, white and yellow.
You can call them the white ladybugs.
Yeah. I'm curious to see, how many paradox spots I'll be getting out of this cross. But, because I think the Max Snow FASCIO that I'm crossing, the white and yellow too, that it actually attached with a little paradox spot. I'm kind of crazy about paradox spots. I don't know if people know that. But
because they're so awesome.
Yeah.
They're just not supposed to be there, and then they are.
Yeah, there's yellow ones and orange ones and black ones, and they just they pop and look so crazy looking.
I like big, giant black ones on like orange geckos.
Yeah. I have a paradox spotted Eclipse that I hatched a couple of years ago. It's kind of like a small project that I tinker with. She hatched with like a big black one on her tail, and she has spots like all over her body. She's got like one pretty decent sized one under her one leg and on her neck, and she's got like, I don't know, maybe a dozen really tiny spots and stuff like that. So I found that about like, 50-50 of her offspring end up with paradox spots, so I'm kind of calling it like a line. I feel like paradox spots are loosely genetic. I mean, parent offspring have paradox spots. Isn't that genetic?
So it's not really a paradox anymore.
Yeah. But,
so
you've seen, like... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask, how are they passing? Like, is it showing up as, like, okay, the mom has it, so 50% of the kids have it, so, like, dominant? Or do 50% of the kids have it and then some of them have way more, so, like, co-dominant? Or what, in your opinion, is going on?
I'm not really sure yet. Because not that many of the offspring have them, because like 50%. And they, this one female, has a bunch, and her offspring, only has like a couple or something at most. So I haven't really quite found the right male to produce a bunch more, I feel like. But, I've produced like a son and crossed back, and hasn't really made much of a difference in how many paradox spots the offspring have. So I don't know. I've crossed her out to other animals, and the same thing. I mean,
so
the thing about
her, she's like the paradox Eve.
Yeah, and it was like completely random and unexpected, because I didn't think either of her parents had paradox spots. So I don't know. But I'm still working on it.
Awesome. I think that's exciting because I am a freak for weird stuff. I like weird paradox spots, I don't know, I like it all that's weird. And I mean, not just in leopard geckos, I like it in snakes too, like ringers and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys know what that is in ball pythons, because now I just made myself sound like a giant nerd. And so, of all of your projects that you have going on, what do you think is the thing that is absolutely the most exciting that you just like, you get those butterflies for next year?
Oh. I don't know. It's hard to choose. Actually, I'm really excited about this new project that I have going on. They're like reverse stripes. I don't know if it's not like a typical reverse stripe. It's where the reverse stripe, starts like at the back of the head and goes all the way straight through the tail. I just think those look so crazy cool looking.
And so it actually makes it through the hip joints?
Yeah, most reverse stripes, they have like a stripe in the tail where it's, either side.
Yeah, it goes like across, like right around their hips or so.
Yeah. So the ones I've got a couple of females. The line goes, straight in the middle, like all the way down the tail.
That is awesome. I always have mine hatch out, and they're coming out, and I'm like, oh, look, there's a stripe, or a reverse stripe, whichever the case may be. And you're like waiting until the back half comes out, and then you're like, oh, there's a line in the hip. Because you always want to get that perfect stripe from nose or the back of the neck all the way through the tail, and so that is really amazing.
Yeah, so I know, like, people have been popping them out of the collection, but I want to see if I can actually, like, do it consistently. not just like one every 20 or 50 or whatever. So
that's definitely an exciting project.
Yeah, and there'll probably be some max no's and eclipses in there and stuff. Because one of them is actually an eclipse and the other one's a max no.
Well, and then everything will be 100% head eclipse. So if you're going to line breed, then that will just be even more awesome.
The ones I have right now are actually females. I'm working on getting a male right now. I'm actually going to get a white and yellow. So they may even be white and yellow as well. So a max no white and yellow.
That would be really neat. I really want to see pictures of everything. Like, I'm still going to be stalking you next season. And put you on notifications. When Michelle posts on social media, I will be alerted.
So, do you think you'll be crossing your white and yellow into your emerine line? Because I know you've got like your special little orange gecko green hue thing going on over there. Do you think white and yellow will be plugged into that next year?
At this point, I don't have any plans for doing that. I was just going to more cross them into the max no, the total eclipses and all that. Because I've actually, both the white and yellow males that I'm getting are actually max no, and they're not super orange or anything. So I don't think that they would cross that well into like my emerines and stuff. I don't know, they'd end up being more pale and not a lot of color, I feel like. So.
Yeah. Or you would get a bunch of white and yellow hypo snows.
Yeah. I kind of keep those separate. My orange eclipses, the paradox spots, the emerines, the carrot tails, whatever. And then my max no total eclipse, whatever else is like in a different category or whatever. They don't cross usually.
Yeah. So what about your Super Snow Double Blanco project? Are you going to keep going on with that or cross it into Total Eclipse or anything like that?
No, I've decided to let go of my Super Snow Double Blanco project in the process of selling the last few. If anybody wants them.
I actually noticed that, by the way. I may have been on the hunt, and I may have stumbled across an ad of yours.
I see everybody's getting rid of their Super Snow Double Blanco project. I don't know if that's just you and me or what, but
there's
have
still
you had
a lot
any
of people that want them.
Yeah, but they're starting new projects. Have you noticed any issues with your projects, or just that they're blizzards and they're evil?
I thought I was the only one that thought that. I thought
blizzards are
evil.
evil.
Just maybe mine. I have blizzard enigmas, and they freak out like more than anything ever freaked out before. And I just totally thought it was mine because they were enigmas, but I'm starting to find out that maybe that might not be so.
Blizzards have always had that kind of reputation for being, skittish and kind of evil. I found that, like, some lines, like, if you get a nice female and a nice male together, sometimes you get nice offspring, and sometimes you get crazy ones. But if you start with crazy ones, you're going to get crazy offspring. That's just, I think I got crazy ones. So.
Even the ones that were het for blizzard seem to be off. Like, I don't know. It's like they would just look at you with this stink eye. Like, yeah, put your hand in here. I dare you. Yeah, I had
this Maxwell blizzard I got from Steve Sykes, and she looked at me, and I just, like, kind of backed away slowly, like, do not attack. She was massive and, like, just looked angry all the time.
You could do like Wally's wife with the spoon. No, go back over there. Let me push you gently with my spoon. So, you were mentioning that you were taking photographs for your overseas caller or client. So,
yep.
You are one of the few people out there that actually does ship internationally.
I just ship through Steve Sykes, so I don't actually, do the shipping. I send them over to him, and he takes care of the rest. But yeah, I've sent animals to the ham show a couple times, and they've gone on to their respective locations. I've got a couple people in the UK that have animals from me. I also sent animals to Malaysia, which is really exciting.
That is really exciting. I'm noticing that in Facebook there are a lot of people from Malaysia lately, a lot. And then with the fat tails, I think it's a Malaysian person that has done the first crosses for the whiteout emails. So, Malaysia is the up-and-comer for the leopard gecko community and the African fat tail community.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised. I don't really know that much about what goes on in Malaysia. I kind of, have a stereotype of all the islands and people in boats or something.
They eat a lot of weird food, maybe.
Yeah.
So
I know that's not true, but
tell us about the process. How, I'm sure you're in contact with your clients, and they know when a package is shipped. How long does it take to get to, say, the UK?
Well, first I shipped them to the ham show, and Steve has people send the animals about a week and a half before the show. So the Wednesday before the show, and the show is on a Saturday or something like that. And then he ships them out. They go through customs. He has to put them in some kind of special container. They end up at his contact. I can't remember the table name, but he has some guy in Germany, Ham, Germany, that has them at his table, so people can come pick them up. And what happens?
Are they pre-sold?
Yeah.
Okay.
They have to be paid for before I ship them out. Usually people will pay, a month or two ahead of time before the show. So there is this long waiting period where I have to hold on to animals, which, not the greatest situation, but, what can you do? So,
well, when you ship them to Steve, isn't there a process to it? There has to be a vet check and that sort of thing before they can leave our country to enter another country?
I'm not exactly sure what goes on 100%, but Steve takes care of all of that. For every animal, I have to send him $75 and U.S. dollars. And he that includes the shipping to him, all the customs, any kind of containers they have to go into, any live arrival guarantee, all that. They're guaranteed to arrive alive.
And I know it's totally horrible to ask, but they all have arrived alive.
Yes, thankfully. There hasn't been any problems. I know this past ham show, some of the couriers to the UK, I guess, didn't pick up animals at the show. Yeah. It's really bad.
Terrible. I was actually considering purchasing from the ham show, but when they started explaining like the process, and unlike you, they were not having any sort of live arrival guarantees. And so I was thinking, I don't really know if I trust this, because I was looking at higher dollar animals, and I knew that, like, Steve made sure that stuff got there alive, but I didn't know if I trusted those people to get stuff here without having it be dead.
Yeah, that would be, like, the worst thing ever. I couldn't imagine, you know, if that happened to me, like, what I would do. You know, I'd spent, like, all this money and all this, you know, excitement and time and effort, and end up with a dead animal. So
I know, that was, like, the saddest thing.
Yeah. That's one of the really, you know, great things about what Steve does in sending geckos to him, is that, you know, he takes really good care of the animals. He makes sure they have water and stuff, and you know, I know the animals are in good hands with him.
That's definitely important.
Yeah. So.
We actually have a question from Brad, and he would like to know if you have any thoughts, or if you're familiar with the pastel morpher trait. And he goes on to say that several years ago there were some threads on Gecko forums saying that they weren't part of the Max Snow complex, but then people just sort of stopped talking about it.
I'm actually not familiar with the pastel. I'm sorry. I thought that was something that... Yeah, okay, go ahead.
I can actually interject to that one. So they did at one point say that the pastel was like a snow sibling, and so they had gone on that way for quite some time, saying that the pastels were just snow siblings, and then finally they did get their own name assigned to them as the pastels. But I don't think that anybody definitively was able to decide if it was specifically hooked into the snow gene in any way. But when you stop and think about it, there are a lot of things that seem to be associated with the snow gene in some way. There's, like, at this point we're talking about the pastel. There's also the ghost, which is a whole other, you know, basket of trouble. Right. A whole other animal. And then, like, there's several different types of snow that were naturally discovered versus line bred. So I think the snow complex is huge. And the pastels, in my opinion, were a really pretty animal. They are exactly like they sound, pastels. And so they also had a little bit of hypoing to them as well. I have some in my own collection, and I think that it's a pretty worthwhile project.
So how does the pastel, like, vary from, say, like a ghost, or just like really light super hypotangent or super hypo or something?
Yeah, they're really similar to sort of like the ghost, except that they didn't have as much hypo to them. It was like, so like the ghost is more like a super hypo, and then the pastels weren't. And then also they had a different quality to their coloration than a regular Max Snow would. They had a lot more lavender and a lot more of a minty green versus the emerine type of green. I don't see very many of them anymore, like there used to be. I don't know if it's just because they're not popular and people stop breeding them, or if people get them, they're just like, oh, you'll make a great pet. How's my snow line? So I don't really know where they went, Brad. I'm sorry. I don't have more information than that, but I am familiar with them, and I do have some in my own collection, and I think that they're awesome to work with.
Great question.
Yeah, that was an excellent question. I only know that because I have this one particular animal that is just this amazing animal, and he does some weird things with babies. They come out all sorts of strange colors and patterns. And he's a Max Snow, and I don't know. He's just a fun little guy. He's always full of surprises every year.
Yeah. I kind of wonder if pastel isn't similar to, like, you know, I know this is probably not a great morph to mention, but like the Abyssinian, because I kind of feel like Abyssinian is two different things. There's the eye thing, and then there's the Ron Tremper coloration thing. I don't know if you guys have really seen that stuff, but it's kind of more popular in Europe.
I was learning about it, so now you can teach me. So Abyssinian is when the eye looks normal, but it's actually an animal that's an eclipse animal because it produces offspring in the way an actually eclipse-eyed animal would. Is that correct?
Yeah. They vary a little bit, like Abyssinian eclipse, I guess you could call it. The eye is going to look like an eclipse eye, but without the pigment. It's you know, eclipse eyes are like white, like an albino eye, kind of like light gray, not white, but light gray, like that. So versus like a normal eye, which is a dark gray or, you know, kind of blackish looking.
I guess I've seen pictures, and I guess I never really noticed that. But everybody's like, oh, you see the eye? And I'm like, what am I looking for in the eye? I guess I never really concentrated on the eye color. But now that you mention it, thinking back on pictures, yes, that is the difference. And so they don't necessarily display, like, the other, like, signs of being eclipsed like a regular eclipse does.
Well, they have, like, the white nose and things like that. But I actually had some Ron Tremper Abyssinian line animals, and their coloration is quite different than you know, other animals. You know, they have the spots are brown and not black, and kind of lighter looking, I guess. And like the lavenders were kind of more muted, and it was actually a Max Snow I got from Mike Rakowski. Really, really cool looking animal. He ended up in the UK actually. I'm actually kind of sorry that I sold him, but oh well.
Oh,
I
think I
could get him
that.
back.
I hate that, the kick yourself sale.
Yeah. He's all the way across the Atlantic Ocean now. But like,
well, I mean, you could get him back, but it costs a lot.
Yeah, well, let me book some airfare and break down your door. But also, like, they're really, really light colored. Like the yellow part is not super bright yellow. It's more like a pale yellow. Or when combined with a Max Snow is really like not very much yellow to it. So
yeah, I definitely like the muted colors. I mean, in Desert Snow Gecko, I started my empire with a tangerine and like a few snows, and so I've always just been a huge fan of snows and the colors that come with snows. And I mean, there are some dark ones and there are some light ones, but I like the ones that have the really pastel-y colors. I don't know why. I think they look pretty, like little petit four cakes.
Yeah, like my favorites are the ones that look, you know, more like what they look like as babies, you know, white and black. You know, more like that rather than, you know, these really orange-looking snows, and I'm like, that's a snow? Oh, okay. I want it to be obvious from their baby, like, it's white and black, it's definitely a Max Snow. I don't like the guessing game. Like, it looks kind of lighter, but it's orange, and okay, it's a mix now, I guess. But yeah.
And so, do you actually still keep any other reptiles?
I had African fat tails. I tried breeding them this past season, 2013, and I decided it was not for me. The crickets was the problem. I had one female at the beginning that was on crickets, and then towards the end of the season, like half my fat tail stock was on crickets, and
they are a pain in the butt to move over. They're like, what? Worms in a dish? You're joking, right? Where's my dinner?
They started on worms, and then they decided to not eat anymore, and then the only thing they would eat was crickets. I was like,
they'll do that to you. They're stubborn and they're tricky, and they'll be like, oh no, I'm gonna go on a hunger strike unless you feed me what I want.
Yeah, and I hate crickets with a passion. I'm allergic to the bugs and stuff, and a lot of people have allergies, and the crickets bother me more. I don't know why.
My husband's actually finding that the dubia, of all things, if they touch him, he just explodes and welts and hives, and because you know how they have the sticky feet, sort of, if you grab them and you sort of pull, you can just see the lines of where they've been on his hands.
Yeah, they kind of scratch you, and then whatever gets in there, and I don't know if they have what you call dander, but with cats they have dander. But
they're bugs, in my opinion. They're just little walking balls of dirt. They're little
whatever
walking
the allergen
balls
is.
of dirt. We actually have another question from the chat room. Jagged Edge Reptiles wants to ask, can Michelle, how do you tell a Max Snow Diablo Blanco from a non-Max Snow Diablo Blanco?
That's a good question. A part of the reason I stopped working with them is because it's really, really hard to tell. I mean, you have to take a lot of practice and stuff, and even then, there's no guarantee that you can tell the difference. But you got to know the parents, obviously. If one of them's not a Max Snow, then baby's not going to be Max Snow or a Super Snow or something like that. I guess Max Snow Diablo Blancos, they tend to be lighter, more white. It also kind of depends on, what their parents look like. I mean, if you started with two really pale-looking Diablo Blancos, you're going to have a hard time telling the difference between that and a Max Snow Diablo Blanco.
Can you even, can you tell when it hits, the second copy of Snow? Can you tell when it's a Super Snow Diablo Blanco?
Yeah, sometimes, the Super Snow Diablo Blancos will have, a different face structure. Super Snows have different, kind of a more pointy-looking nose versus, a Max Snow or a regular leopard gecko. But not always. I mean, it kind of depends. Test breeding is really the best way.
So visually, it's not a 100%, even knowing the parents, it can't necessarily be 100%. So even if they have a full eclipse eye on a Super Snow Diablo Blanco, is that a giveaway? Because I know blizzards do have an eclipse eye, but does it always ever go full on its own?
I know it doesn't happen too often, but there are, blizzards that have solid eyes. That's not, definite indicator that it's eclipse or anything like that. Or if it's Super Snow. Because, Diablo Blancos can have solid eyes too. So,
yep. So one thing that I guess I had picked up a long time ago was that sometimes if an animal has snow and it's supposed to be an all-white animal as it is, they'll have a frosting over the top, like this yellow. But that can't necessarily always work with blizzards. What do you think about that?
I think it's actually easier to tell, like, if it's a max snow blizzard versus, like, a max snow Diablo Blanco, because you can see, like, where the max snow pattern is on the back. It kind of looks like it has high white sides, but not. There's, like, a line. Also, like, if you have, like, a super snow blizzard, they have a white stripe down the middle of their back, but you can't really see that on, a super snow Diablo Blanco because of the albino.
Since Blizzard has the Eclipse eye, how can you tell a Diablo Blanco from just a blazing blizzard?
I think you should say, since Blizzard has the pigment, it's not necessarily Eclipse.
Thank you, Morgan. Thank you for fixing that for me. Since they have stuff in their eye, it makes it look like an eclipse.
No, the parents, test breeding. It's one of the fallacies with the whole blazing blizzard and Diablo Blanco and things is that there's no guarantee unless you know from the breeder or you've test bred or what that you're getting what like a Diablo Blanco if that's what you bought, versus a blazing blizzard.
Okay, so jagged edge. Michelle says the best way to know is to test breed your animal.
And buy from trustworthy breeders and things like that.
Excellent advice. I definitely like that. So we have somebody who joined us late in the chat room who really wants to rediscuss very quickly the whole galaxy versus total eclipse. The naming issue. Yeah.
This is just my opinion. I don't know if you want to say this is fact or whatever, but to me, the galaxy line is Ron Tremper's line, and, the only thing that you should be calling a galaxy is, geckos that are bought as galaxies or their offspring. Not crosses. And a galaxy is a Ron Tremper's Super Snow Eclipse line, and some of them have the yellow paradox spot, some of them don't, whatever. Everything else is like a Super Snow Eclipse or Total Eclipse, whatever you want to call it.
Thank you. Thank you for going over that again. We just had a late joinee, and that was their major question.
Sure, no problem.
So tell us a little bit more about what you want to do, what you aspire to do. Because 2014 is just like right around the corner. So everybody's already pretty much scurried around and made their plans and got going. What do you foresee for yourself going even further than that?
Beyond 2014?
Yeah, like what, are there any other species of gecko that you want to get into, maybe try something different again, or what radical new stuff do you have? Of course, you don't have to divulge any of your secrets, but inquiring minds want to know.
Okay. As far as leopard geckos, I want to continue on with my fascio, my Total Eclipse fascio line, and keep trying to produce animals that have more and more fascio blood, what I want to call like a high percentage bloodline of fascio, I guess. If I can produce, an animal with well over 50% fascio blood, then I think that would be really awesome and really enhance other people's projects if they're crossing them out and things like that.
That would definitely be of service to many people.
Yeah. And And I want to continue on with the paradox spotted eclipse stuff. Maybe even cross that into my total eclipses and mix them with paradox spots. I mean, try to do like the round tripper thing. Make my own galaxies. And of course call them something different.
I know, that was my question. I think that a white and yellow super snow eclipse, I think I got it right. So like a total eclipse with a white and yellow gene is called a universe. And my big question was, oh my gosh, what happens when it's a white and yellow super snow eclipse bell? What are we going to call it then? What if it's a tremper? What if it's a rainwater? Are there names out for this yet? Because it's going to happen, people. It's going to happen. We have to prepare. We need names.
Or what if it's a Murphy patternless?
I know, right? What are you going to call it?
Yeah, you know, a Murphy patternless with a white face and a white neck, a white tail, and then just like smoke over the rest of it.
Beyond time and existence, or I don't know. I like the multiverse. I thought there was just clever, or I don't know.
I did think that was pretty clever.
Yeah.
So I've got a question here. Are you planning on turning your total eclipse towards bells? And when is Rampant Reptiles going to get rainwater albinos?
I would love to cross them into bells, but I'm still kind of test breeding against tremper. I want to be 100% certain that there's no tremper in there. I've gotten to the point where I've crossed a few generations, and it's such a small percentage. I don't even know what it is anymore. The 6.25 or whatever. But I don't feel like I've produced enough offspring to really go ahead and cross them this season into bells. So I'm still test breeding against tremper in 2014.
Okay. And are you going to be getting any giants? Or rainwaters? Go ahead with the rainwaters first.
Yep. I'm getting my first rainwaters. I am super excited. I'm getting a pair of raining red stripes from Bob Harris. He's kind of a new breeder. He lives kind of nearby, but we're going to meet up at the White Plains show. So I'm really excited about that. Be getting them next week. So.
Right on.
Yay!
Yeah, my first rainwaters. And
that wasn't on the list.
There was an et cetera. And I have been working a little bit with giants. I got some from you, Morgan.
Yeah.
That hasn't been something I've really, tried to get out there and highlight. Oh, I have giants, but
yeah.
I got that super giant trapper patty from you, and I'm really excited to create some giant patties. I got a Max Snow patty, which I'm going to cross him to, and make some giant Max Snow patties, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
That makes me hungry for, what is that? Well, peppermint patty thing. Because it's snow and patty, it makes me think of minty covered in chocolate. Sorry.
And that made me think of, what would you do for a Klondike bar?
Oh, yeah, I was thinking that, too.
I was thinking about beef patties.
Well, that's because you're not a girl. Girls like chocolate. The end.
I know. I like cheeseburgers.
Something else I'm really excited about. I'm getting a blood cross that's got a lot of carrot tail from Christy Hausman over at Ghoulish Geckos, and that Gecko. It's actually a male, and he's got a huge orange paradox spot on his back. So I'm going to cross to my paradox spotted Eclipse, which is actually an emerine line, so it would be like a blood emerine cross, I guess. But, yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Well, there's your paradox spot for total eclipses.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that. I don't know. But he's like super orange, and crossing that with Max Snow, that like breaks my rules. So.
I really like Christy's stuff. I think that her stuff is like perfect for your stuff. Like you guys are like a match made in heaven, because she makes these really interesting eclipses, and you make these really interesting eclipses.
Yeah,
but they're on different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, I've gotten some geckos from her over the years, and she's an awesome person, great to work with, and really reasonable prices too. So I recommend her highly.
Yeah, we'll be having her on the show pretty soon, actually, to talk about all of her projects.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You have to let me know when it is.
I really like how your show, Morgan, you get all these different people from all these different backgrounds that do like such interesting projects, because in leopard geckos you really have to be able to think outside of the box and be ingenuitive and have this goal in mind. And you are capturing that really well. I mean, this show, Wally's show, and having Christy on, I mean, like I just said, it's like Christy and Michelle both have super interesting eclipses, but they're on different ends of the spectrum. So I just think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, getting everybody's story out on the air.
Yeah. Yeah, I look forward to, like, all the shows after this. Hopefully I'll get to guest host at some point.
Yeah, pretty soon.
Yeah. But, hey, we should interview you, Morgan.
I know. We should interview Morgan. What a novel idea. Do you want to tag team him? We can do it right now. You ask a question, then I'll ask a question.
Oh, God.
Oh, we can put him on the spot.
I love being put on the spot.
He always puts me on the spot.
Nobody has any questions for me.
Sure, we do.
We do.
Okay, go ahead.
Tell us about your pied.
What?
Tell us about your pied.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, you mean skull, right?
Oh, God. Yeah. Michelle had to ruin it for me. No, I've posted her all over Facebook already. I do have Skull. She is the first, like, white-faced Mac Eclipse. But the white is really weird. It's not like a normal white like an Eclipse. It's like an actual, it's like paper white. So I'm testing her against some other stuff. So.
And it's not the usual pattern either. Like,
no, it's random.
It's like, it's like a racer face usually, and she's not.
Yeah, it like zigzags. It's almost like pied on a face of a horse. It's. I don't know. We'll find out if she produces. Michelle, I got her from Michelle, so she didn't produce last year. So hopefully this year she'll do something.
I had some issues. Yeah.
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 Actually, what I've done is using Michelle's total eclipses. I've pulled the snow out of it, so I'm hoping that like my best, I guess, white-faced eclipse, you would call it. I actually have a male that I'm going to be breeding to Skull. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And she's a Max Snow Eclipse, isn't she?
Yeah, she's max now. So at the most, I would just get Mac Eclipses, because what I'm breeding is just an Eclipse. So,
oh, okay. And she's a reverse stripe, too.
Yeah, she's a reverse stripe, too. Well, the male is going to be banded, so. But everything's het for stripe, I guess you would call it.
It's either stripe up or stripe backwards.
Yeah, or jungle. Everything's het for jungle.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and ask the hard-hitting questions for Morgan. Morgan, what got you into reptiles?
Reptiles or leopard geckos?
We have to start with reptiles. You have to siphon it down to smaller bits.
I don't know. Whenever I hatched out back in 1987, I just knew that I was connected to them.
You say that as a joke, but my dad seriously told me that I came out of an egg, and I believed him until I think I was 9, and I accidentally somehow made my children think the same thing, and they're both 5 and 7, and they still think that people come out of eggs.
Well, I mean, if you think of a placenta as an eggshell, then yeah, I guess we come out of eggs.
And my daughter calls them magic eggs because they're soft and squishy like bubbles.
Oh, God.
We originate from eggs, the oocytes or whatever.
Yeah.
So, sorry, major tangent. Morgan, when you hatched out in 1987 and you knew that you were totally intertwined with reptiles, how did you find your first friend in the reptile world?
Me.
I would flip over logs and rocks and all that normal stuff that little boys and a few girls do when they're little kids, and it's just ever since I can remember, it's always been reptiles and wildlife in general.
Did you throw frogs at girls?
I can
is that a rhetorical question?
No, we're asking real questions here, people.
I can't say no because, I mean, you can forget things, so I'll just say that
I plead the fifth.
I'm unsure.
I could totally see you as a little kid running around in overalls with froggies hanging out of all of your different Oshkosh pockets.
No, I don't think I wore I could have worn overalls, and I could have thrown green tree frogs at girls, or put them in their hair on the playground. But, yeah.
And so then how did that get refocused into leopard geckos? Well,
my godbrother, Chris, I went over to his house one day, and he was so excited. He had to show me what he had in his room, and then there you go. There's 2 leopard geckos, and as soon as I saw those, I had to have them, and I had to have them forever and breed them, and I don't know.
So you knocked Chris out and took his leopard geckos and ran out the door. No, I'm just totally kidding.
No, that was in, 95, and after that, it wasn't until, 2003 I got some, and I was in high school, and I had to get rid of them, and then I got a whole group of them in 2005 and started from there. But, yeah, that's where it started.
Where did you get your first geckos?
I was working, this is a horrible story. Yeah, in 2005, I was working at Petco, and these geckos were mysteriously losing their tails, and I was in training to be the reptile specialist or whatever for our reptile section, because every Petco needs one. And I found it was my day to do the infirmary, and there's these leopard geckos missing their tails, and this guy comes in and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm adopting all the ones that are dropping their tails." And I thought it was kind of weird because, he was Yeah. So I went to the manager and I was like, no, I'm not letting anyone leave here with these. If they leave, they're coming home with me. So I ended up with a few leopard geckos, and then I bought a few more, and yeah, I ended up with a 1.5, and they were normals and Tremper albinos het for Ember, and they were part of that whole quad het thing back in the day where they crossed them into rainwaters as well. So I tried doing my research on where exactly they originated from, and I got 3 different places, and then I ended up being able to confirm with 2 of those that they do sell quad hets. And so in 2010 I went ahead and sold those to a person locally that understood that, I'm not going to be breeding these anymore because they could very well possibly be het for rainwater. And I went ahead and got my first online one from Steve Sykes. I got a Sunglow that was a tug line from him.
Oh.
So.
I was afraid you were going to say that, the guy was ripping the tails off or something.
He was.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought too, but he never finished it off. He was in there ripping their tails off or banging on the glass, bang, 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 bang.
Yeah. He was taking the tails off the hatchlings so that he could adopt them out for free.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Was the guy working in the store, or how was he?
Yeah, he was an employee.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Dirty Petco employee.
Yeah, at that time, if anything had even frog butt crested geckos, they would be adopted out for free. So,
wow.
Pretty much all wholesale crested geckos don't have tails, so it was just ridiculous.
Well, if they do, it's an amazing miracle.
Yeah, and our local Petco, they were $100 for one with a tail, and that was in 2005. So
wow.
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy. And so I remember too that you used to work with the Diablo Blancos a lot. So how did you tell if they had the snow or they didn't have the snow?
Well, that's really complicated. You have to spend a lot of money and then hope and pray that the breeder who sells them to you actually you get something that's snow. And I'm thinning out my super giant super snow Diablo Blanco project because this last year everything that I hatched that was super snow had terrible seizures and nothing lived from it. So I don't know.
That's sad.
Yeah, they had really bad light sensitivity. So every time you would open the tub, they would just freak out as soon as the light was on. So I had to do everything in the dark, and most of them didn't even make it.
That would be incredibly stressful.
Yeah, it was. Especially since that's I'm thinking upwards of $2,500, and then 3 years of working on it, and the end result that you're trying to go for is just something that's not going to be able to survive.
It's something jiggling in a box.
Yeah. So I decided to cross a lot of it to other stuff, other bloodlines, in case it was one of those whole siblings to siblings issues, and I still didn't get good results from it.
So Morgan, what's your favorite morph?
Probably Total Eclipse.
Okay, now we have to ask Michelle. Michelle, what's your favorite morph?
I don't know. I like my Maxno Fascios. Actually,
I like your Maxno Fascios too.
I have produced so many Total Eclipses, I'm actually a little bit tired of them.
Blasphemy!
know, that like there isn't a huge amount of variation in them. You know, the spots are all kind of similar, and you know, some have more white, some have less. But like with the Maximo Fascio, there's so much variation in the spotting and the colors, and you know, I like how they're different. You know.
Have you actually been able to produce any of the reduced pattern, like with the ones with the big polka dots, the total eclipses?
You mean like a high white line or something?
Or the ones that, you know, have the ginormous polka dots, and it's a little bit more random versus the pinstripey.
Like the bold ones.
Yeah.
No. I did have one that looked like that when it was really young, but when it got older, it just looked like you know, all the others. They're super, super spotty little spots. And mine don't
dirty
have
trick.
like a. Yeah. They don't look, you know, like they have any bold lineage in them, really. So I don't know. But,
okay. So now we ask the other questions. Always the end of the show, hard-hitting questions. We'll ask Morgan first. Morgan, what morph could you have if you could have any morph?
God, that's I don't know. I kind of have like everything that they make right now, so.
Morgan has one of everything they make.
I do. Well, I either have it, or if I don't have it, I have the genetics to make it next year. So, I don't know.
You don't have any rainwaters?
No, but I mean, how easy is it to get a rainwater and then just, you know, I could have a rainwater.
Rainwaters.
Yeah.
Maybe
I have rainwaters.
Oh, that's true. Okay. I haven't been to your house, so I don't know.
Yeah. That's like the vault. Nobody goes in there.
What about you, Michelle? What would you want to have?
Well, I kind of like bought everything that I wanted. I really, really want to produce a super radar. I've been trying for I think 2 years now, and just nothing yet. So, yeah, like maybe a white and yellow variation would be freaking awesome. But you know, with a big white face and really dark spots and stuff.
My last 2 eggs of this season of 2013, my incubator came unplugged, and it was like right there at the end, and it was just the saddest thing ever. And I did what everyone does, is, you know, you dissect your eggs to figure out what was going on, and I was so sad. They were both, it would have been my Max Snow radars. I did produce another one earlier in the season, but like there were 2 more, and my incubator came unplugged.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Awful.
That was really stinky.
Oh yeah, I bet it was.
Well, that way too, but. So what other questions should we ask Morgan?
I don't know. What do you look forward to producing this season? The most, anyway.
Probably supergiant stuff is mostly what I'm doing, but I'm gonna do it Steve Sykes' way and grow everything for a year before I label it a supergiant or sell it, because I notice supergiant isn't exact, I guess you would call it. Like, you breed 2 supergiants together and you could get, you know, normal sized animals, and then you could breed those together and you could get supergiants the next year. So
I'm kind of noticing that it's not as exact as everybody wants to make it too. It's not as cut and dry.
No, it's more like I don't know, crested geckos, where you just breed them.
I'm also noticing that there is a lot of overfeeding going on in the whole giant, super giant market.
Yeah, that's a big problem too. I mean, sure, any 120-gram supergiant could be 170 grams, but
There's sausages.
I don't know. Yeah, I feel way better with having a 120-gram animal that's like almost a foot long, and instead of having, weight.
165-gram thing that's got all short and stubby and looks like it needs to be buried in like a miniature piano crate.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely noticing a huge trend with the overfeeding.
Yeah, you definitely need to get a supergiant line from someone that's seriously working on them, and not just from someone that's saying, "Oh, I've got giants for sale." Because
I've got giants for sale that are past super giants.
Yeah, even if you breed like a supergiant to a normal, you could get all normals. I don't think you can get all giants, because I didn't get all giants. But then I bred those, and I got supergiants. So I don't know. It's like codom, recessive, polygenic all together, and then a little bit of random mixed in, and some dice. You got to put dice too, and flip a coin as well.
And then play the red or black with a deck of cards. Yeah, I am definitely noticing that's going on with a lot of my breeding with the giants and super giants too. It like the way it's all laid out in the literature and the books and online, you're like supposed to get this and this and this, and that's the way it is, but that's not the way it's happening. And yeah, statistics are a weird thing, but it's happening so frequently, and I'm getting that same information from other people as well, that I definitely think Morgan is onto something that it's like, I don't know, this magic trick.
Yeah. Well, the big problem, outcrossing is good with other morphs, but with supergiants it's terrible, because you might get it from a well-known breeder. It's like, say Steve crossed Godzilla to a normal. You might just get normal-sized geckos out of that, and then you'll be really disappointed because you probably spent like $400 to $800 for it. So it's, that's.
I'm going to start doing the way Michelle does things, because she just trades, and that seems to work out really well.
Yeah, trading is awesome. You should definitely get into that. Not having to spend money, awesome.
Yeah.
You can get way more animals that way.
My bills like my money. They don't like to be paid in leopard geckos.
Well, that
way you have more geckos, less bills,
Yeah, I've been telling new people, because they always ask, how do you get so many high-end animals so fast? And, if you start with hets and then say you produce 20 geckos, trade someone that goes to a show, trade them those 20 geckos for like one, $400 gecko. And then each year you can just, and then you have holdbacks. So by the time now where I'm at like 200 geckos, hatchlings a year, I can trade Michelle for White Knight Project or something.
I do want to say something, though, like about trading. You want to trade with somebody that you trust, and Steve Snipes, he's not going to like go and trade with somebody who's been breeding for 5 minutes. You can't expect like somebody that's been breeding geckos for years and years and years to breed with or to trade with somebody that's just starting out.
Yeah, that's 100%
true. You're going to have to
true.
prove yourself first.
Well,
so
and that they have a plethora of single gene animals or hets that they don't really need, maybe not necessarily so much, and then like the fear of pathogens is huge, especially for people who have larger collections. Like,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Locally, yeah. People know that I'm around, and they'll contact me and they'll say, I adopted this gecko off of Craigslist, and I saw you have another gecko that I like. Do you want to trade? No. Instantly, the answer is no. I've never in my life seen a Craigslist gecko come to a good end. And That's my own personal experience. Maybe somebody else does it better, but if you're getting them off of Craigslist, they don't have known parentage a lot of time, and their husbandry has definitely been lackluster.
Yeah. It's also something I started doing this year was I've started testing my own fecal samples. I bought a couple books. I got a microscope. I got all this stuff to do it, and I've been teaching myself. And I've found actually some of the animals I've gotten have like pinworms and things like that. They're much more common than you would think. Even like in healthy animals, like I had no idea that some of them had pinworms.
I know looking at things on a microscopic level can make you very afraid all the time.
Yeah.
of everything that's there that you didn't know was there.
Yeah. So quarantine, very important. Getting your animals tested and stuff, it's also very important. So.
Yeah, and you can test them yourself, too.
Yep, even if you trust the person that you're getting them from. I think it was a show, was it 4 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago that we did with Pat Klein? And that was saying that you could go ahead and send your stuff off to, what was it, Avian Tech?
Biotech.
Yeah, Avian Biotech. And you can do like samples from a whole rack. Not that everybody wants to do that, but it's definitely a good idea. But yeah, quarantine. I cannot stress quarantine with people enough.
Yeah, and have like a local reptile vet like set up ahead of time before your animal gets sick, so you know who to go to. And they should be able to test fecal samples for you, other than testing for crypto, which like Destiny was just saying, you send off to Avian Biotech because they're the experts. And
then another thing that I like to tell people that seems that people don't really think of is not necessarily anything to do with trading or anything, but with the health of your leopard geckos. I have like a leopard gecko first aid safety kit thing, and I've got some preparation H in there in case somebody happens to get a swollen body part. I have the Neosporin without the painkiller in there for any nicks, cuts, bruises, scratches, and thrown tails that may occur. I have a couple of different kinds of iodine-based cleansers. It's just like a little kit that's sort of grown over the years. Like, oh, that's hanging out. That's not supposed to be hanging out. What do I do? So you just kind of figure this stuff out as you go. But having like your little kit is definitely a good idea for the whole pre-planning. It ties in with having your local vet that that you can go to and knowing their emergency hours and stuff, because leopard gecko stuff never happens in the middle of the day.
Mhm.
It's always at 2 a.m. and you're like, oh my gosh, is that supposed to look like that?
Or like on a Saturday, or
Yeah, it's never during banker's hours.
So Michelle, why don't
you get to go first, host?
Okay. Why don't you talk about how much the microscope and stuff costs? Because I know Yvonne's in the chat room saying less than $600, but I mean that would be for really like a mid-range setup, And the things I've looked at were like under $200 or $300 for all the fecal floats and the sugar solution. So why don't you tell them what you got?
Well, like altogether, your starter cost is probably around like $200 to $300. The microscope is the bulk of that, obviously. You're looking at spending at least $100, $150. It has to. I can't remember the specifics, but you have to have at least like a minimum magnification to see some things like the pinworm eggs that I've seen. You have to have. Yeah.
Sorry, this so makes your skin crawl.
Yeah. Like some other things, you have to have a higher magnification, like like coccidia and things like that. Those are like even smaller. But
I've heard, now I don't know if this is true, and it was on the internet, you know how things are on the internet, but I've heard that you can actually get, like, if you have an iPhone or a smartphone that has a camera, you can get zoom lenses, and you can actually build like a little plexiglass deal, and you can create your own microscope with your iPhone and a high-powered microscopic, like, zoom lens.
Really? Like, I've seen some, like, they call it, like, desktop microscopes or something. They're, like, lower powered than, like, the compound microscope that you used in biology class or whatever. And I wonder if maybe that's something you would use, or I found those weren't strong enough for the application that I wanted them to be used for.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the magnification is on those, but they were taking pictures, like detailed macro pictures of like snowflakes, like one portion, and you could see all ice crystals.
Really?
I don't know if that's big enough or not, but I don't remember where I saw it. I'll have to go back hunting and see if I can find it.
Yeah. Yeah, you should send that to me. I'd be curious.
I'll have to think about where I saw it, and then I will tell you. It will come to me eventually, though.
Okay.
I have a mind like a steel trap. Just kidding.
And yeah, I bought what is it? Understanding Reptile Parasites book. I don't have it here with me, but I could post this somewhere so people can take a look. I guess like on my website or something, I can make like a little page or whatever.
Yeah, you should do an info page on your website.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yes. I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
And
then post a link to that in the new group that we got going on. Destiny will have to add you.
Or
yeah.
Also you could put it on the Late Night Leos page, or have Morgan put it up there too. So if anyone's interested that's listening can find it really easily.
Yeah, and we'll just spread the link
I'll put it
around.
on my Facebook too.
Yeah. We'll get your website some hits.
Yeah, actually, since we're getting pretty close to the end of the show, Michelle, go ahead and tell everybody, like, your contact info, if you have a Facebook page you want them to like, or if you want to visit them at your website, or how people can contact you specifically if they have questions for you.
Oh, people want to contact me?
Probably. I mean, doesn't everyone? I do.
You can contact me either through Facebook or my website. Facebook, it's Facebook / Rampant Reptiles. That's RAMPANT Reptiles. Or my website is www.rampantreptiles.com. I have like a contact form, or you could also email me at sales@rampantreptiles.com. And I've got all sorts of information on my website. That's usually where I post my for sale geckos. I have a tear sheet on there, got some links, whatever. And pictures that I take, I put on my Facebook, so I mean, keep that somewhat active. Or message me on Facebook, whatever.
I like Facebook, and that's the easiest way for me to do everything, so that's how I bother Michelle.
Yeah. I prefer email, actually, for the most part, but, I don't mind if people message me on Facebook. It just, if it's in my email, it's all there, and, it's easy for me to organize, so.
I'm super lazy.
But, whichever works for you, I'm fine with that.
Yep, and definitely everybody, thank you so much for listening. And if you like the show, make sure that you go and like the Late Night Leos page and spread the word for us. Morgan is actually also still on the hunt for sponsors. We won't actually be selecting any sponsors until 2014, and that is actually approaching quite quickly. But if anybody wants to be a sponsor for Late Night Leos, make sure to get in contact with us through the Late Night Leos page or contact Morgan or myself. And if anybody you know or if you yourself want to be a guest on the show, definitely contact us and let us know your story and why you think that you would make it very interesting 2 hours. And before we go, Michelle, just really quickly, tell us what information or what words of wisdom do you want people to take away from your show?
Buy animals from me.
And you heard it from the horse's mouth. Buy animals from Michelle.
I am a plethora of information, so feel free to message me and I'll try to help. Even if I don't know the answer, I try to help figure it out or, pass you on to whoever knows the answer or has what you're looking for. But yeah, I love to help and have lots of information. So, yeah.
I think that's one of my favorite things about you is that if you don't know, instead of just being, I don't know, I'm not going to answer that, you actually do one better for everybody and you find out. And you go find that answer and it's like you take it as an opportunity to learn it for yourself too. Because you're like, I don't know that. I'm going to learn it now. And I will help you learn it too. And I really like that about you. And I think that is an amazing thing for our community because not everybody is like that.
Oh, thank you. I love to learn new stuff. And, if you have a good question, I'd love to find out if I don't know, what it is. So I can hopefully help somebody else in the future. So,
that's a super way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely appreciate your time. I know we switched the day because it was very important for us to have you on the show, and I really appreciate you making the time. And I know you're busy and your schedule's always really full, so much appreciation for volunteering your time to do the show.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you guys inviting me on, and I'd love to do it again sometime. So.
Yeah, we'll have you on soon.
Awesome. Well, I think this has been a wonderful show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michelle, for coming on, and thank you, everyone, for listening. And like Destiny said, if anybody wants to come on the show, it doesn't have to be 2 hours. I mean, if you want to do a 1 hour or an hour and a half, that's totally cool. Or any other day of the week. I mean, we can make the time to get you on if that's what it takes. So thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, midweek shows are fun.
Yeah, and maybe we'll do a New Year's show. I don't know. Destiny, you want to do a New Year's show?
I don't know. I can't say yes or no. Don't ask me on air. That's terrible.
We'll do a New Year's show. So the next show will be on the December 31st, and it'll cross over to the 1st, because we'll probably do it at like 11:30. We'll start the show. That way everybody gets part of New Year's. So that'll be something that will... Okay, I'll do it at like 10:30. But thank you so much, Michelle, for coming on, and thank you, Destiny, for being my guest co-host tonight, and I will talk to you all later.
Thanks, Morgan. Thank you so much, Michelle. Everybody have a great night. And
bye, everybody.
Late Night Leos.
Okay, bye.
Bye.